Like, you know, show the joy. I mean, you don't have to fucking walk around with a smile on your face all night, but you gotta,
you should,
you know, I mean, but there's
That's
dudes,
not the worst,
but
for
you
your
know,
own
it's like,
sake.
there's something about like being too cool. It's like, come on, dude, you know, like connect. I mean, because if you don't look them in the eye and you don't engage and, you know, smile and whatever, it's like they're not connecting with them. And you know, I think that's the part of the whole thing. It's like one of the things that Brad Fernquist does every night, which I think is really great. During Iris, he plays that iconic slide solo, and he's really great at this. He's always kind of, you know, we're always surveying the first row or so. And, you know, you kind of look at, and certain people are, obviously most people are looking at John most of the time, but, you know, people look at us and they're engaging. He will pick out, I don't know how he does this, but he seems to pick out the most deserving person. And,
awesome.
And a lot of times, which I especially love, when there'll be like, you know, a couple of really attractive girls that think they're super cool, you know, and there'll be like, you know, someone else standing next to them, like, you know, an older lady or someone with a kid or whoever it is. And he will completely ignore the hot girl, the hot ones. And he will give the pick to probably the real fan, you know, the one who is singing to all the songs or who's wearing the Goose, you know, t-shirt or whatever it is. And he does it every night. And because I'm always wondering, like, who's he going to give it to tonight? Because I'm kind of behind him on a riser. So it's this little game. And I always think about who he's going to give the pick to. And it's really great, you know, and that's very cool. Yeah, I love that he does that. It's fun.
I just want to say two things about all that. Number one, I apologize. I have to give Steve Feckety a shout out because he's the one who connected us. So Steve, thank you very much. I usually do that in the beginning, but you know what? We had initially spoke like 4 months ago, I think, and I just spaced out. So Steve, I apologize. And thanks, Steve Feckety, for thinking of me. And also you said something about your wife, and this is the God's honest truth. I'm not just making this up. The number one thing that attracted me to date and be with my wife, I don't get down very much. Almost never. But when I do, I'm fucking down. And I need someone to kick my ass. And she was a real strong woman to do that. So that is such a valuable to have in, you know, for me, I feel it's such a valuable thing to have in a partner. Yeah, and everybody has their things that work for them based on your personalities, of course. But I think that's a great thing, man. I really, she's kicked my ass many times over the last 30 plus years.
Well, it seems like we're similar in that sense. Like, you know, we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of positivity. And of course, you know, I always talk about this with creativity. There's not an infinite jar there. I mean, I run out, you know, like
especially you get older,
you have to
like
recharge.
Sleep.
Well, you have to recharge, you know, that's the thing. And especially if you're, I'm like one of those like introverted extroverts or whatever. Like I'm totally good to not talk to a lot of people. But then when I do, I kind of get rolling and I get, you know, I can be quite garrulous. But if I'm in here writing and producing and juggling and doing my thing, I'm wiped out after a certain amount of hours or days. I mean, if I have an artist come in and I'm working, you know, we're just because it's super high focus, right? I mean, that's the one of the misconceptions about people with ADHD. You know, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or attention deficit. It doesn't mean that you can't focus. You can hyper focus on one thing, and I can do that. I can hyper focus for hours on songs, you know, production, whatever, and nothing else is coming in. But it's when you're, you know, and you know, especially with kids, this is what's difficult is like, especially if it's a subject that doesn't interest you. If you're not interested in it, you're not going to pay attention to that shit. Yeah. I was thinking about music and girls and whatever during high school. I wasn't paying attention in class at all. It's a miracle I even passed. So, you know, it's like, but hyper focusing, then you start draining, you know, you're drained by the end of the day. Yeah. If you do that for 2 weeks, you're working on a project, I mean, or even in rehearsals, and you're just hyper focused on learning 25, 30 songs. It's like, okay, the parts, the vocals, you know, how am I going to switch this patch? And I got to move this and da-da-da-da-da. By the time you're done, you know, I'm just done. and like literally have to sit on a couch and watch 5 movies. It's like, I'm just done. So to have a person though that understands that and can work with you when you're laid out, it's like that's super important.
Yeah, it's very important, man. Let me what's your top 3 Desert Island discs?
Oh, Jesus.
In no particular order. It's so funny because somebody sent me a comment one time. They said, Craig, I love that people will come on your show and talk about getting sober, recovering from cancer. And when you ask them that question, everybody freezes. It's like such a tough question because it's hard. It's really hard.
It's almost impossible.
Just for this moment.
I will tell you this.
Just for today.
So this isn't, I'm going to change your question in my answer.
Yeah. All right.
So there are a couple albums that I've listened to maybe more than any other albums. And they're strange albums in the sense that they're almost like medicine for my soul. Mm-hmm. There's a couple albums, and I can tell you one, and I'm going to guess that no one's ever said at least 1 or 2 of these records. Okay. So but you're going to tell me if I'm alone in this, but there was a band in the 80s, late 80s or whatever, from Philly called the Hooters. And
I had Eric Bazillion on here, man. I love those guys.
So
that guy is such a great guitar player.
Dude, that record is called Nervous Night. And there's something about, I think Dave Grohl was talking about it on his HBO special or whatever, that he did a documentary, and he was talking about influences. And there's an age where like music kind of grabs you a little harder than everybody, a little more.
Totally.
And I think it's like 12 or 13 or like between 12 and 14. Mm-hmm. There's something that happened, and it was this summer that record came out, or right around there. And I spent summers at the Jersey Shore, and I had a keyboard. I got like a keyboard, and I was starting to learn songs. That record, Hooters Nervous Night, there's something about that record that if I'm in a bad place or whatever, or if I'm on an airplane and I don't know what to do and I'm just in a whatever, I put that on. I've listened to that record way too many times. Something about that speaks to me, to my childhood. It's, it's all nostalgia stuff. But Bruce Hornsby, The Way It Is, as a piano player.
Yeah, I can see you.
And let's give a shout out to actually Bruce Hornsby as a singer. No one ever talks about that dude as a singer, ever.
True.
He's a great singer. He's a great singer. Yeah. And Huey Lewis sings backgrounds on like 2 songs on the record, and their harmony, I don't know, man, it hits me. It's just the greatest thing ever. There's a song called Down the Road Tonight about a guy who falls in love with a prostitute. And it's
a funny premise.
It's funny because when I first started doing music, I didn't really listen to lyrics. I would sing them, but I didn't know what I was saying. And that was one of the first songs my father, because I remember I was at his house, and he has a great Yamaha Baby Grand and a beautiful wood room that is their living room. And I spent many years, hours on that piano learning songs. And we would learn songs together, and he would show me, because he plays piano and sings. And he said, you know what the song's about? Because I was into Hornsby, and I was really kind of getting into that when I was like probably 15. And I said, I don't know what it's about. And, and then we went through the lyrics, and he said, look, it's about this guy who falls in love with this girl. She's in this roadside shack down the thing. And the line is, when I told her that I loved her, she said, just keep coming back. And it's like this line that's a really good line. And I didn't really know about,
just keep coming back.
And it was like, so I always remembered that song, and I learned it. And it's funny because I didn't know there was like country influence in that at the time, but there's mandolin and actually both of those records. That's weird. The Hooters record, and
he plays a lot of instruments.
There's like mandolin, and then this kind of Hohner harmonium kind of Hooter thing. Yeah. But so that's a record that I've listened to. The Bruce Hornsby. The Way It Is, that first record, I listened to a million times. And then the third record, maybe my favorite, is Scritti Politti.
Scritti Politti, I remember that.
Provisions. Now, their big hit was on the record before this called Cupid and Psych. Their hit was Perfect Way.
Okay.
But there's something about this Scritti Politti Provisions album that David Gamson produced